So to construct effective stories, we need some kind of a roadmap. We need some kind of a plan. We can't always work with just a blank piece of paper. We need something to go on. So to that end, I've come up with 5 main story components that really break stories down into, okay, what are the key things that I really need to look at in order to get a good story, to start to put this thing together. The first thing you need is theme. Second is audience. Third is characters, through line, and then acts and scenes. Over the next few slides, we're going to take a closer look at each. In a lot of ways, theme is the most important element of almost any story. If you can't get the theme right, the rest of the story is not really going to fall into place. The theme really states your main purpose. It should be one clear and concise sentence. That's very important. It can't be a paragraph. You can't have a theme that's a paragraph. You've got to be able to break it down into one sentence. If you can't break it down into one sentence, then your theme is too large for one instance. You have to break it up into a couple of different instances or a couple of different stories. It's going to provide direction and consistency. It's going to be your guiding light. Whenever you're wondering, is this character right? Did I write this scene correctly? Is my overall construction, is my overall pace correct here? You look back at the theme. The theme is going to get you back on track. So the question is, how do I develop theme? How do I go about it? Well, to give you a jump start, list out keywords. So, for example, if you're looking at sort of like your company or what your company means, what are the key words that you think of when you think of your company? Or if you're looking at a product, what are the key words for that product? If I'm trying to teach something in a training program, if I'm trying to teach a new piece of software, what are the key words that characterize that software? Take those keywords, start to circle the most important ones, narrow it down to 4 or 5 main ones. That can be the start of that sentence that becomes your theme. Here are some practical theme examples. We translate the hopes and dreams of our clients into well-defined, reachable financial goals. So in this case, we have a financial planner. His spin on it is that instead of answering you sort of like a bunch of generic questions, he's going to take your hopes and dreams. I want to teach high school someday. I want to open a restaurant. I want to retire and travel around in an RV. And he's going to translate those into practical financial goals. We offer the quality, selection, and pricing of a large sporting goods dealer with localized personal service. So essentially what these are kind of those unique selling propositions. We're just going at them a different way. We're going at them in a way that kind of tells a story, that kind of tells a narrative. Our new crossover is designed to keep your family safe during life's everyday journeys. And by the way, all these theme examples, these all come from the workshops and the book. The next major component is characters. So who are your characters? Your characters are anyone who play a part in your company, your training program. This can be internal or external. Common examples are employees, vendors, people that you work with, people that you interact with on a regular basis. They're the people who play a part in your story, the people who interact in your story. They're important because, first of all, they influence your business. And they develop part of what I'm going to call the collective uniqueness of you. You're not just made up of your products or your services or the things you're trying to teach. You're also made up of these people who are involved with it. Whether they be clients, fellow people who stand up there, all these people together, they make up a unique combination that you can't find anywhere else. So if you want to jumpstart developing your characters, list all the people that you have interactions with on a daily basis. Circle the most important. The most important are your key characters. As we talked about on the previous slide, some of the best places to find characters are right from within your own organization. So immediate examples of characters include employees, associates, vendors, suppliers, and partners. All those people you deal with on a daily or regular basis. There's also what I call relative characters. Relative characters include people on sort of the outer ring or indirect people who work with you and your organization. That could be supporters, people you get resources from, and even neighbors, the people who are on the either side of you, the office down the hall or the store across the street. The most important thing to keep in mind about characters, or when choosing or creating characters, is that characters, first of all, have to be engaging. The audience has to react to the characters, identify with them in some way, and want to be interested in what those characters are going to do. The second thing is that characters must always experience some type of growth. They have to be a slightly different person, or learn a lesson, or come to some sort of understanding about themselves or about their surroundings. It's from that growth that you demonstrate the theme of the story, the lesson of the story, or the action that you're hoping people will take as a result. When people talk about stories, they talk a lot about plot development and characters and symbols and things like that. But one of the things we forget about sometimes is that the audience of the story is just as important, especially if you're using stories in a business standpoint, to sell or to market or to train. The audience is going to directly influence the type of story that we choose and the way that we tell that story. So it's really important to think about who is your audience. There are two types of audiences, your direct audience and your indirect audience. Your direct audience is important because those of course are your potential targets. Your indirect audience is important because in many cases the members of your indirect audience influence the members of your direct audience. Something very important to think about when considering your audience. There's a big difference between their interpretation of your message and your intention in that message. We have to plan ahead for how they might receive the message, for how they might interpret it. That's going to be based on their background, their ideas, their values, etc. We need to adapt the story based on that. We need to analyze our audience and choose a story type that's appropriate. So to jumpstart your audience analysis, just start out by listing your customers. This is your direct audience. But also consider your indirect audience, the people who influence your audience. Those are important too. That's your secondary audience. If you can also reach the influencers, then it just makes it that much more easy to spread your message. Taking a closer look at some audience examples, your direct audience would include your current customers, of course, and of course your prospective customers. Your indirect audience would include the family and friends of those customers, the media, who will report things about your story, different organizations that may come in contact with or influence your audience or your business, and just what I call general influencers. General influencers are people in society who tend to have opinions that other people listen to. These are sometimes referred to as thought leaders.